It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Welcome to it. Yes, time to take a slightly techie turn as we look back through history and one common thread through so many people's lives. We are talking about Barbie today, and yes, Ken, lest we forget, but Barbie is undoubtedly an icon of our time. She hasn't always been the way she is today, or certainly not looking like that. She has evolved with us, and we've seen many versions, iterations of Barbie come to life over the years, and ahead of the movie release later this year, Jason Grant Hydes now join us in reminiscing and what makes this doll so famous and kind of polarizing, because there is a lot about this notion of beauty and the ideal of beauty that's wrapped up in this little doll. Guys, good morning. Did you ever think you would find delving into the history of Barbie and Ken as interesting as you have?
No, not actually. Little me that was playing with them. Wish I could go back and tell her one day you're going to be on TV talking about these dolls.
You're going to have to explain what you're doing right now.
Yeah, I should have paid more attention.
I love the...
I just want to let everybody know how Barbie for Scrook Jess is.
I'm not.
No, I get dragged into watching the cartoon series with the kids all the time.
We watch it for our daughter.
Our daughter's in
so you
bed.
Can relate.
Our daughter's asleep and we're watching it.
Just to keep her calm.
I learned a lot of Barbie lore from Jess. So.
I have a feeling we're going to see some collections today. We're going to understand. So why? Why has Barbie got her tendrils in her in the way that she does? Take us back to the beginning and walk us through the history of this incredible doll.
Okay, so Barbie was first released in the 60s. The first Barbie came out in 1959, so just before the 60s. And the creators, Ruth and Elliot Handler, started Mattel, which is obviously a very popular, became a very popular toy manufacturer off the back of Barbie. And it was actually Ruth's idea, and I remember I watched a documentary about it, and Elliot didn't want to. He thought it was silly to have toys like this for girls, but Ruth was like, no, this is going to be big. And yeah, she wasn't wrong.
Sure, I hope she had the 51% share in that, because, wow, I didn't know that it goes back so, it's like a time capsule of where our psyche is. So from the 50s, we move into the 60s.
Yeah, so 60s is when we finally got Ken. So Barbie met Ken and they fell in love and they moved into their dream house and everything was perfect and fine.
They had a pink car.
Everything was okay.
I'm guessing the pink car probably arrived in the 80s. If ever a pink car was going to arrive, it would probably be in the 80s.
Well, there was a lot of controversy in the 60s because this was the first time you got Barbie as roles that were defined as feminine roles. So like babysitting Barbie, which was... It's kind of gross because they're like, you do things that girls would do and Ken would do things that boys would do.
Well, it's a coding in essence. You're coding young people to understand what their job is.
But Barbie's always been a good reflection on society. And then the feminist movement happened and that was excellent. You could see what was happening in the 70s.
How did Barbie adjust and change over that time?
Well, firstly, we got the most iconic Barbie, so Barbie became a little bit more fun.
We got Malibu Barbie.
We got, Malibu Barbie, which was like a big deal.
She was smiling, she was happy, the makeup changed. Well, the makeup and hair always changes to mimic the fashions of the time, but this was a little bit more friendlier, whereas before she was a little bit more modelly and a little bit more
So it's almost like a tonal change.
Yeah.
Which is cool. Okay.
Yeah. And then a wider variety of careers. There was a flight attendant Barbie, there was also a surgeon Barbie, and there was the first time, it sounds really wild, and like obviously, but the first time we saw a baby blue dress for Barbie that wasn't just pink. You know, so they said, hey, listen, you know, Barbie can be whatever, and that was like kicked off the 70s.
I can imagine people arguing about what Barbie can and can't do behind the scenes as she moves through each era. I imagine going into the 80s, this is when, well, we know the whole world, pop-wise, went absolutely crazy. Fashion went crazy, and I'm assuming Barbie followed suit.
Yeah, but Barbie definitely followed suit, and this was also a time when a lot of like designers were getting involved, and Barbie was getting designer clothes, and she was getting fancy, and then we had obviously like the power suits and power working of women, so Barbie also got more professional careers. Like, again, just mimicking exactly what was happening.
Yeah, and it was also the first time that we saw Barbie of color, which was also very interesting. It wasn't as prominent. It like, obviously became more prominent later, but it was the first introduction of the first African-American Barbie, which was very cool. So the 80s were a very exciting time, huge range of toys. And then obviously the most diverse came out in the 90s.
That's when the most diversity happened on the planet.
Yeah.
And it seemed like then it became a lot more connected to pop culture.
Yeah. Yeah, so like Barbie, one of the things was Barbie's feet became flat so they could fit in Doc Martens. You know, Barbie was cool now. She had to wear boots, not just heels. You had like all the snappable shoes, and like I know I had a box full of just shoes that would snap on and off. And
oh, that's cool. That had like little magnets in it.
If you've still got your box,
they just click on.
They just like clip on. If you've got those, I can remember. If you've still got your collection of Barbie shoes or Barbie anything, please share pictures. We're going to continue taking a walk down memory lane, tracking the past of this incredible doll. And yes, Ken, bravely by her side, as always. But we'd love to hear from you. 0634088863. If you've got any pictures or videos to share, please do it.